So the question has now been brought up, with somehow not covering terrorism as reporters, would that lead to stopping terror? It's been brought up because the Secretary of State John Kerry said in his speech, and I'm quoting, "Perhaps the media would do us all a service if they didn't cover it quite as much. People wouldn't know what's going on." Former NYPD Sergeant Manny Gomez is here with us in the studio. Good to see you, sir.
See you, sir.
What do you make of that?
It's absurd. The media has a job to do, which is to cover. So to suggest that they shouldn't cover major events like Nice, like what happened here in the U.S. and other places of the world, is ridiculous. That's not going to stop terrorism. That is only going to make them want to take it to a higher level so that they get the coverage that they want and the coverage that they've been getting. It's ridiculous because it's basically saying, don't cover it so as to not show our failure as an administration.
It does seem crazy on the surface of things, right? The only thing I would think, there's a couple of things, but one, in your experience here in New York, with the New York City Police Department, remember when we used to have after 9/11 especially, all the threat levels would be raised and certain colors would come out and we in the media would talk about it, in particular in the weeks and months after, but then even in the years after. What was the effect of that type of attention? Was it positive in terms of helping you in your investigations, or was it negative in scaring people?
It was totally positive because it told New Yorkers and people internationally what's going on. The news tells us what's going on.
It's where we get, if you see something, say something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we need the media to inform us, to tell us, okay, if there's an active shooter situation, what do we do? And they have people like myself instructing them in the media. They have other government officials coming on board and telling people what they should do in certain circumstances.
You know what, that's a really good point, because I think of that myself sometimes when we have, God forbid, one of these situations occur while we're on the air and we don't know what's happening. And oftentimes we'll call someone like you, right? And we'll say, and because we don't have sometimes anything else to say, we'll go into hypotheticals. Right. You say, well, you shouldn't go into hypotheticals. But sometimes I bet people do learn from that, because they say, well, I was watching such and such, and I knew if it happened, this is what you're supposed to do.
That's exactly right. The media is an essential tool in fighting terrorism, and for the Secretary of State to turn around and say, let's bury our heads in the sand, it's an awkward way of fighting terrorism.
Now, the other argument that I brought up earlier, and the reason I brought it up is because I think the President has said things like this in the past. If you talk about low probability events, and statistically, terrorist attacks are still, thank goodness, relatively low probability events, given how often they occur and how often other things occur, you know, car accidents down the line. Understood, all of that. By talking about it, does it make these low probability events more likely? People get inspired, things like that?
No, it informs people and it educates people as to what's going on in the world, how they could protect themselves, and how they could potentially identify another terrorist and avoid an attack. And it goes back to what you said: if you see something, say something. We need the people to act as a force multiplier to help the authorities. This is a tidal wave that's coming upon us, and we can't just expect the authorities to do it on themselves. So through the media and through the public at large, we're helping thwart terrorism here and internationally.
Let's hope. Have you seen that work, by the way, specifically in your career? See something, say something?
Absolutely. There have been numerous attacks thwarted here in New York City by somebody who reported a neighbor, a colleague, a coworker.
Well, that Times Square almost attack, or that was probably the most famous example, right?
May 2010, when it was a peddler that was that stopped that attack. And so, yes, the media is essential, and we need people's help to help the authorities prevent terrorism.
Very good points, Manny. Thank you very much.
Thank you.